Who would win of the week this week is Stewie Griffin from Family Guy versus Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. The reason I like this matchup, actually, now that we're getting into it, there's a lot of reasons. One, it's two people that are on complete opposite ends of the age spectrum, but they're also two characters who you could literally do anything with. If Stewie pulls out a big old ray gun, not surprised. If Mr. Burns has like a specialty laser made, pulls that out of nowhere, not a surprise.
Exactly, yeah.
They both seem to have completely unlimited resources.
They do, yeah.
The only thing is, of course, Mr. Burns, being insanely old, seems to be pretty frail. However...
Yes. Stewie's a baby.
Stewie is a baby, but there are episodes where it's been shown that Mr. Burns' frailty has kind of benefited him and like actually stopped him from dying.
Right.
There's a particular episode where his doctor's like, you have so many diseases that none of them can kill you because they're all fighting each other so hard.
Huge.
And he like...
That's funny.
Yeah. It's very...
I wonder how medically correct that is.
Probably not at all.
Yeah.
I would not try it.
Just keep getting sick and then...
I have... Here's my initial thought, and you might disagree with it. But Mr. Burns, yes, does a lot of crazy things. Stewie does a lot of crazy things. Stewie, for whatever reason, has unlimited resources, and Mr. Burns is obviously filthy rich, so he has unlimited resources. But Mr. Burns doesn't because he has so much money, he doesn't always do his own dirty work. And I'm not saying that at one point in time he didn't. He probably did. That's probably why he is who he is. But he doesn't anymore. And some might even go as far to say as evil as he may be, that gives him too much of a pampered lifestyle to act
to get his hands dirty.
Yes. To act on that evil himself, other than sending the dogs or whatever,
releasing the hounds,
whatever the hell. Sending the dogs.
That could be funny.
Hashtag sending the dogs.
Hashtag sending the dogs.
New T-shirt coming out tomorrow.
It's like a stick figure version of Mr. Burns. Yeah. And it's like, and it's all wiener dogs.
You got a lot of work to do, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Because at first, I was totally 100% for Stewie. But then you think about the episode of when he, it was forever ago, but he ends up going to the future and he sees future him, and future him's super nerdy.
Yeah, he's a big wimp.
And Stewie?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then put that in perspective, if that's how that happens in the future, is that an issue, or are we just talking straight up Stewie how we know him?
We're talking right now.
Stewie baby, for sure.
We're talking Stewie.
However, if we know that Stewie ends up like that, there must be at least a small seed of that in him as a child.
Right. But you don't...
Mr. Burns has none of that.
I veto that point, because now you're trying to imagine a future version, not knowing not knowing what he went through to become the future version of himself, right?
Sure.
There could have been any number of events that happened that changed Stewie from kind of being an evil little baby to a nerdy person. The large one probably being figuring out how to talk.
Right. If we were going...
Shout out to Baby Geniuses. You know that movie? I know you know that movie. Yeah.
If we went to future Stewie, then we would have to go to future Mr. Burns, and I feel like by that time Mr. Burns would be...
Exactly, because you couldn't make the argument of going to past Mr. Burns, because the reason that Mr. Burns is who he is because of his past, whereas the reason that future Stewie would become future Stewie is unknown.
Sure. I think that's a great point. We can nullify future Stewie. We'll strike it from the record. I do think that we cannot underestimate Mr. Burns's unkillability.
True.
He's been around. A bunch of rocks fall on him, and he's able to, because his bones are so loose, kind of conjoin like a snake and get out of the rocks.
Slither. He does slither a few different times.
Yeah. Also, to your point about him getting his hands dirty, Smithers is obviously a huge help to him, but again, for example, so glad I get to use so much of my Simpsons knowledge right now. Also, I'm all Simpsons
You
today.
are
I did not
Simpsons
realize
today,
that.
yeah.
But for example, in the one where Santa's little helper, the Simpsons dog, fathers like 50 puppies or whatever, Mr. Burns wants those puppies, and he does steal them himself.
Oh.
He picks them up and puts them in a bag.
When he gets the hounds,
Well, releasing the hounds.
are those the same dogs?
Oh no.
Oh, then I don't actually know I might.
But-
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the all the
he-
context. I wasn't really listening to what you were saying.
He
to be
pulls
completely
guns on people and stuff.
honest. Yeah, but does
like-
he ever shoot him? Maybe back in the day he did.
Think so? I don't know.
Ozzy
Tough to
does-
say.
or
You think Old Man
Ozzy.
Burns has lost a little bit of his grip?
I think Old Man Burns has lost a little bit of his juju because he makes other people do his dirty work. That's the
Stewie
first thing I
shoots
said.
people.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure that's
Stewie-
totally true, though.
Stewie
That's true.
Stewie has not yet learned.
A quote.
Okay, that doesn't. Never mind. I veto that because I was gonna say that Stewie has not yet learned like
Morality.
humility
Yeah.
or whatever the word. Yeah, morality. But Mr. Burns doesn't have morality to begin with, so that doesn't factor into the fight. But Stewie has never. And to your point about Mr. Burns being hard to kill, I feel like if there was somebody that was going to kill Mr. Burns, it would be, if there was something, it would be something that Stewie would create because as a baby, his brain has no limitation, right? Nobody's ever told him what he can and can't do, so he would be able to create, the device that you're talking about.
Which is why he's able to build his time machine and all that stuff. However, I would actually almost say that taking into account some of the examples that the one example really that I've used of Mr. Burns being unkillable with the rocks falling on top of him
too, and the disease
and the diseases, I would say that actually Stewie is a lot more practical than anybody in the Simpsons universe because Family Guy can get pretty gory. So I would actually argue that Stewie would not have to and wouldn't build some big machine or ray gun to kill Mr. Burns. He would straight up jump down on him and slit his throat.
And that would kill Mr.
And
Burns.
that would kill Mr.
Yeah,
Burns.
yeah. I can see Stewie being very tactical in that way.
Well, and there is a few Family Guy episodes where Stewie does go like full tactical. I feel like I can
also,
picture him in, a little black jumpsuit.
I mean, to be honest, I can see Stewie thinking ahead and like getting his time machine ready so that if he
is about to
fails,
die,
he can go back,
come
start
back
over.
Which I think we would have to make a rule in the fight: no time machines.
Right. It's just.
But
he
I
has
agree with what. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and the point that was just made in regards to Stewie planning things out more. Take away the time machine, but that still factors in because Mr. Burns does not seem like he plans a lot. He kind of, to me, is like, when like they first invented stings, right? And you could kind of set up like mobsters,
Like sting operations?
yeah, and you could like set
wait a
up a mobster. Like, yeah, they were paranoid, but you could set them up because they'd be like, I got a bad feeling about this, but they'd still go out and try to buy the guns, right? I feel like that's kind of Stewie to Mr. Burns. Like, Mr. Burns might not even have that feeling of paranoia, but in his mind, he's like, I'm Mr. Burns. I am this, evil, all-powerful kind of guy. Nobody's really going to try to set me up, whereas I feel like, if this is a planned fight, and with Mr. Burns being old, all it would take was a dark, shadowy room and a cardboard cutout that looks like Stewie, and Mr. Burns walks in the room, and Stewie's hiding in the corner behind the door, like in the ceiling in the corner, like Gollum style, and just jumps down on him. And
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing is Mr. Burns is lethal interactions are kind of a little more goofy, a little more Simpson-esque, right? And Stewie does have the ability to get very real if need be. So I actually think, again, that's what would do it.
Yeah.
Is not the crazy, not trumping cartoon shit with cartoon shit. It's just
no
trumping
falling
cartoon
pianos
shit.
in this fight?
I mean, there could be, but a falling piano would not kill Mr. Burns.
If there was a falling piano, it would be like a joke. You know what I mean? The piano would fall and miss Mr. Burns, and it would be a good joke on old cartoon, and then the fight would start.
For some reason, I'm picturing like a standoff between the two of them, and it's basically like a who's going to shoot first. Yeah. And I just 100% can see Stu. I feel like Mr. Burns is going to try to explain something to him, and Stewie's just going to be like...
Indiana Jones style, right? Like Indiana Jones style. They're about, Mr. Burns is thinking that this is going to be like some type of... He's going to outwit Stewie, and in the middle of his explanation, Stewie just pulls the trigger. Yeah,
maybe.
I could see that too.
I think it depends. I don't think that Mr. Burns would try to talk his way out of it.
But if he did, that's how it would go.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that's what he would do. I think he would act very quickly depending on the situation. If he's waiting for the hounds to get Stewie, then of course he would talk while pushing the button. But he'd push that button right away.
Oh, yeah.
So if he didn't have the button, he would I assume he has a gun on him at all times. He would whip that out real quick. So. However, that gun is probably from the 1800s. Right. It's going to take 6 minutes to load.
He's going to load it. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, and because I think we're all in agreement, is that if Stewie was going to do one out of the box creative thing, it would be invent something that would allow him to talk to dogs. Because doesn't he do that in a Simpsons crossover where he can talk to Santa's little helper? I'm pretty sure he does.
I don't think that happens.
Maybe that's in my head. Maybe that's a made up episode.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, Stewie would have a way to communicate with those dogs and be like, yo, this dude treats you like shit. You guys should go fuck him up.
I don't know if he does treat him like shit, though.
I'm not. Fuck you, Andy. All right.
We'll lock it in, though. We'll go around. Go ahead.
Stewie.
Yeah, Stewie.
Gotta say Stewie.
Yep.
So we're locking in Stewie, clean
but
sweep.
But not for the reasons I think that people are initially going to think.
No. I agree with you. I think we took a deep dive. We thought it out.
Yeah.
So vote on that on Instagram on Friday. And I know I've been saying this a lot, and it's still close to the start of the year, which probably factors into it, but Stewie could make a run.
Yes.
Stewie could make a good run. So vote on that tournament. On Instagram.
Oh, the tournament, yes.
Yeah, the Tournament of Champions. Vote on that on Instagram on Friday. Stewie Griffin versus Monsieur Burns. R.I.P. Mr. Burns.